drank mine.
All right.
I'll wait around there. Morning here. I've been founding about a man, Hen Shillwood, University of Bergen, South Africa, Blombos Caves, before 50,000 years, found a 100,000-year-old animal bone paintbrush. And it was painted with mulberry colors on stencils, brushes of hair. 75,000 years, geometric, carved, engraved geometric designs on an ochre slab. Hand stenciled done at 39,900 years. 35,400 years, painting of a pig deer. African emigrate began around 60 to 125,000 years. Didn't reach Europe until 40,000. It's only in the 20th century that they began to think symbolically. Stick figures and geometric designs. What I was getting at was this, what haunts me through this Adam Braum, B-R-U-M-M, archaeologist, talking about the origin of human imagination. And there in the same little stack was a little pebble that looked like a face. And then there were 41 seashells that had been drilled, looked like to make a necklace, yeah. And there's one other thing that said something that I liked. Part of our cognitive repertoire as we dispersed from Africa. Part of our cognitive repertoire as we dispersed from Africa. They'll never know, but what a wonderful statement, origin of human imagination. They're going to have to work a long time to figure that out.
Maybe never.
And that's what I've been thinking about. When I first wrote to you, I was thinking about the gyre on the west coast. It goes, I think it's 3 years it takes to make a complete little circle. And in the southwest, that doesn't interest me as much as the one that on our side. Big circles. And toroidal, something, there's another word that I've lost. That makes circles. And the whales can burp and make big, slick smoke rings. Toroidal something or other. And even the volcano, they've seen giant smoke circles belched out of the mountain. And they found that the whales use it for fishing because they belch these big circles of bubbles. Cut all the herring and the critter or whatever is in this circle, and then they come right up through the middle.
Right.
That was so amazing. So you could see it on the surface, all of a sudden, boom, there you come. Circles and circles. So I think just opening the door and spewing forth at you, those are things that I've been thinking about as I try to put I have trouble with comprehension. Seems like I have trouble with comprehension, comprehending certain things. And the therapist told me to look I want to be, which would be back to where I was, which of course I'll never be there. But she challenged me to do things differently, so that you make your brain think. I really have to work at it. The rest of the day will probably be pretty washed out because I'll be very careful to be concise and be comprehended. But the point at the bottom point is what you told me about the bear coming and talking about with the dis-ease, not dis-ease, but dis-ease that comes into your life. That we work at every week. We work with people in ceremony to displace the dis-ease that we can replace with ease, so that there's more room in life, so that if we live this long, or if we live for years as we hope, in what we have that we're given now, in that circle, in that gyre that goes from here to Japan through Kamchatka down and comes back to where we are. And I can't quantify, I can't say to you what's important, but it's somehow, from me, in thinking, these are the things that I come into when I think of you. That they're ponderables, and they make the world worth living. And there's one saying said once that there are always more questions than there are answers. Sure. So, I'm done.
I have one time watched whales make the bubble nets. And I wanted to learn from them all I could about how they live and what were they saying to us. And so I was really concentrating. And one thing I wanted to tell you is that when they're coming up, you see one small bubble, and then the next one, and then the next one. And that's when you begin to understand how long it takes to make the circle, and the moment the last bubble meets the face of the first bubble, that's when they come through the surface. The other thing is, I was with a friend in Southeast Alaska, and these whales, they're messengers like all animals are, and we were the ignorant ones and trying to be good students. And at one point, we looked at each other because we had picked up something else, and it was in our legs. We were in an aluminum boat, so really thin bottom to the boat, and the whales were, they were talking, and before the first bubble appeared, our legs started to vibrate like that with their voices. It was very subtle, but we looked at each other because you know how when something subtle happens and you look to the other person, you too? And we felt in that moment that the whales had opened a door saying, well, if you really want to be here with us, then here's something, and this is just the start. So I like that, the circles in the circles, and my friend and I were being drawn inside the circle, where there was richness and food and joy. That moment when the whales surface and take in everything that the bubble net has compacted. They were inviting us in. You know, one time I remember camping one place and another, traveling with Inupiaq people, and we'd go a ways and stop and make tea, then we continued across the tundra. And I don't know what time it was, the sun was out all the time, it was summer, and I felt so privileged to be with these men who were of this place, and they were patient with me. Said, come on along if you want. And the gesture that I'll never forget from that trip is, it was a little bit cold, and we made a little fire out of willow sticks, and I knew those willow sticks, they were hundreds of years old. And we brought them together and made a little fire, and I thought, there's hundreds of years here in the smoke, hundreds of years. These little twigs just grow a little bit each year, and they're giving us the light and the heat and the smoke, and we were brushing the smoke against us to receive what that gift was. And there was an older man walking with a stick because he had a bad knee, I think. And while I was staring at the fire, of course, missing everything else that was going on, he took his stick like this, and he turned around like this, and he motioned with the stick for somebody to come over. And I looked around like this, and there was nobody there. And it took a couple of seconds before I saw there was a porcupine there. And he was saying, come on over, we're having tea, get some warmth here, and a little bit of light. And I thought, you know, how are we going to reteach the world that these, you know, what Henry Beston called the other nations, animal nations, that whatever we do, if we exclude them, first of all, it's unethical. They have taken, animals have taken care of us since before we had an imagination. They've given us everything. They've given us their skins for our clothes and shelters. They've given us food. They've told us where to hunt. They've given everything, and we're wiping them away. And I'm waiting for that gesture from my own culture. When will you turn in front of your fire and say, please come and join us, please be an equal with us. We have something to share. We don't own it, it's a gift. The willows are giving us this gift, and certainly you should be part of this. It has never ceased to amaze me since I was a boy, how much animals just give you. And I think now, you know, when I look at your work, I always see the non-human world trying to reach out, trying to reach to the spirit of the viewer and say, what are you thinking about today? Are you thinking about us? And the way in your work where the so-called human and the so-called non-human always are crossing paths, and I see the agony in the faces sometimes, a great pain because of the mistakes that we make in trying to. We just stay with our own people too much sometimes, you know, and all this is going on out there, and you've brought so much of it to me, and I can point people to your work and say, you know, if you pay attention a little bit, you'll feel healed. So thank you. Thank you for being a teacher, one of my teachers.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, been down a hard road these last few years, but you're working so hard. So much is coming out now. Are you happy about that?
Oh, yeah. I'm never satisfied. As if I was, I'd quit. But I'm very pleased with that. Stroke somebody sent me something in the computer that said it's not a burden, it's a gift.
Hey,
And it's not what you want. But then we don't get much to set up for what we want, you know, because it always changes on us
Yeah.
anyway. So I have to say that as my life was transforming, as I sat there in the ambulance, I wasn't afraid and I wasn't angry. I was simply in a big transformation.
yeah.
I was aware of that, and I was completely scrambled up all the information because I kept telling that I think I'd taken the wrong pills. You know, I still didn't know I was having a stroke because I've never had any problem except that I knew I was in trouble when I kept trying to turn off the shower, which was already off. So there was a part where you go around the corner. And when I went around the corner, I knew that, you know, then I called my friend Murphy, a friend of mine, Karen Murphy, and said, something really weird is going on, can you come and check me out? Well, she knew what it was already. So they just took me downstairs. I was just walking and everything, except that the brain things were going crazy. So there was noise, just like somebody turned the radio up really loud and then took it off the station. So as long as I was still, it was okay. But if I started to give my name, just incredible
Cacophony?
Yeah, cacophony, just, so it stopped. But I was compelled to keep saying A, B, C, D's, but I could only say A, B, C, and the numbers 1, 2, 3. That's all I could get out, and through all the noise. And every now and then he'd ask me again my name to see how I was measuring, how they could see how I was doing. And just by grunting, I could get my name and my birthday. But after that, when things kind of settled down, when they started poking me full of dope and stuff, I don't know what they did, I don't care. They were working on me, they were doing their job. So sometimes I forget when we were doing that to say that we would pray also that the people that put their hands on you in medicals and otherwise, when they put their hands on you, that they would be able to get good information from you to the nurses and the surgeons and the people that do these kind of things. That when they come close and when they touch you, that they do in a good way and that they're able to get information from you that'll further help your dispel your dis-ease and ripping up your ease.
Yeah.
And so as I sit in there, it didn't hurt. I didn't even know who the hell I was. The music was gone. For some reason in different parts I could play the guitar, but I could remember many things are gone. I mean, all the music is gone. I could sing if I could see it on a paper, if I have the lyrics, but I don't remember the lyrics. So at one point I was ready to sell the guitars and the 50 years of stuff because what was given to me was a big void, a big quiet. There was nothing. I had no remorse, and which kind of scared me was that the spirit didn't exist in that manner.
No.
There was nothing there. When I looked into the box, there was just nothing in the box. I had no problem to go to the Mundo and sit and listen to other people playing. Enjoyed it. Didn't feel that I needed to get in to try because it didn't exist. So it was like back the day before the origin of human imagination.
What's in the box now?
Things pop up and I can't really describe, except like somebody walking by a window. I'll be looking out the door and I don't see anything, no lyrics. Now it's been about a year and a half, and a few words will go by, and that's it. Nothing in the box. But you are my sunshine. Okay, well, I used to do that. So most days I can sing it, but most of the time I need to have, paper to see it. Or if I get distracted, forget it. I have to stay right there. I'm still thinking about stopping music. There's a very vital thing that's missing, which is the spontaneity, because the very thing that I'm talking about, which makes my action, makes it okay to play on front of people. And others I just have to watch the paper and I can't really look around, I have to look at the words. And it's very tiring. And it's not very rewarding sometimes. And other times, once in a great while between the things, I can get away with it. And with the what they call paraphasia, you never know what's going to come out of my mouth. The other day I was talking with a teacher, and I kept referring to the chair as a book. And I knew it was a chair, but every time I opened my mouth it said book. And you can imagine that, as I said, I really miss my vocabulary. I feel semi-retarded is what I refer to, because you just don't know what's going to happen. So it keeps you real close to it. On quite the opposite.
Yeah.
What the hell happened?
Yeah.
Because the Lisa, the therapy lady, said you don't just try to come up to your other mark. We would like you to go beyond that and really think, challenge yourself with other things. So I love to read, but reading is a real challenge. Because I find now, over time now, that I like to start halfway through the page. It's really hard for me to start at the top of the page. And I think it's something about focal line or something, but I find that I skip to the middle, so I have to really challenge on that. And now I'm reading things that are just ridiculous for me to try. I'm trying to reading about the Knights of Templar. I couldn't tell you why. I got another book on in the car about atheists and what do they do with the rest of their time when they're busy denying God. What do they do? It's a new book come out, and I thought it was pretty funny, And I might as well be reading Viktor Frankl, because way down the road and out of misery and stuff has come to that. I've been dented and banged up in a train wreck, and I didn't even know that it came there. The first time I was half blind, and I laid on the floor for a couple of days, and it went away. And then I finally, after a while, I went to the doctor and said, "Oh yeah, you had migraine," and then I went to the other place, and I've been to vets, you know, they said, no, you had a stroke. Ooh. But I couldn't see anything, just interesting things. So it's part of being into colors and shapes.
Funny.
It's to move something, to keep pushing things, and so just dropped off 7 more paintings yesterday, that I keep pushing to go beyond this even. And I, you know, I don't pretend what it is, you know. After we get done, we give them a title because Charles needs to catalog things. But before, you know, in the old days, I just put untitled, and William Jameson said, no, you better put a name on it because somebody may give it a title that you don't like, you know, so you better own something to it. So it's all, it's a new thing, and a lot of feet walking. I was thinking about being up in the village in Japan, Yamanote, and there's like 1,000 steps get up to the gate, and the gate are these 2 big giant figures. The first breath that you breathe, the last breath that you expire. And so all around it were shoes, sandals, and the sandals are wishes for walking a long way. Yeah, shoes. Yeah. So they still interest me, you know. And
Is the work that you're doing now a path to being composed again? You know, you've spoken several times about just gone, blank,
Yeah.
it's gone. The vocabulary, little pieces, it just blew away like an explosion, shattered everything,
Yeah.
flying away. And you seem to be very patient, but a little bit circumspect about music. But, you know, as you say, you don't know if you're gonna go back, you know, it's gotta feed you more
Yeah.
maybe than it has
Yeah.
recently. But this work, the recent work, it seems somehow it's putting you together. It's allowing you to reclaim what was in the box, and the box could be filled with bringing these pieces back together that left. All of a sudden, everything left, and so your songs are calling in pieces, and they're coming out in the paintings. And maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And it, you know, it was completely revving me to, you know, I wanted to get people, get the hell out of here, because for 2 weeks, for 24 hours a day, they would watch on me, you know, make sure I didn't have a relapse or something. And all of a sudden, I got people there every hour of the day, you know, and I had good, loving friends, but still, I wanted to get the hell out of here. I wanted alone, and I want to get back to the studio because I knew I could do it. There's a morning when I woke up, and there was a piece of paper and pinched a pen from the nurse and drew a picture of a hawk or something just doodling in there, and I knew it was still alive. So I may not be able to talk because at first I couldn't talk, make just gibberish. And then I couldn't really comprehend things at all. I spent 2 days wrestling with the word elevator. I knew it was elevator, I could see the word, I could see it in my head, but I couldn't say elevator. It was like elevator.
I remember we talked on the phone once about that.
Yeah.
You, it's just all these broken connections.
Yeah.
Do you feel stronger than you did a year and a half ago?
Oh, yeah.
You're reclaiming territory
yeah, as far as the vision, that was in another box that got away with, was completely falling over. I think we often, when we try to get fixed up a bit, we go to things that we can already do, you know, so you feel like you're winning,
Right.
you know, but you haven't really approached the, you know, the stuff, and that's why I think the therapy was absolutely necessary for me, because we'd just do pages of stuff that looked so stupid, and then I'd find out, I think, well, what the hell do I have to do that? You know, why do I have to do 1, 2, 4? She said, well, what happened to 3? And I said that, 1, 2, 4. And I'd argue with Bill, I'd argue with Charles, anybody, argued him, and it would be completely wrong. And yet I would push it, 1, 2, 4. Where's 3? Didn't I say 3? I said 3. No, you didn't. Look here, all the pages, 3's not on there.
Yeah.
You know, and then you say, oh, I'm broken. Now I gotta do something here, you know, that I didn't, so in the end, because I go to an an accountant, so they let me go on numbers because I have trouble with numbers. And they were worried about me with, you know, your checkbook or anything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I said, no, that all goes through the women that do the accountants and stuff, so I don't have to do that. So they said, okay, you don't have to worry about 1, 2, 4, then you're okay. So we'll let you go. But it works okay. But here a while, the first time I walked to the ATM, I just about died because I thought, do I remember the number? You know, because I've lost it before, but
right.
now thinking, you know, but it worked, and boy, I hung on to it like death, you know, like life itself. To say.
Can you say more about your growing awareness that what seemed to be tragedy, you began to see it as a gift?
I think, Barry, number one, what I was thinking this morning when I woke up and when I went to sleep last night, thinking about it getting together, because anxiety and this depression and stuff that visits me, you know, and so I kind of have to warm through things, and of course I don't do it at all, but I think about scenarios, and what I was thinking about was because I hold you in high esteem and know the books that some I understand and some I don't understand, that I'll get to read it for the rest of my life, some of the wonderful words that you chained words together to make a sentence, to make a paragraph. So, as I'm thinking about that, I go to the ritual, to the ceremony. The ceremony. I'm calling it ritual. I don't know where I got that one last one, but the ceremony. Just a very simple ceremony. Very old. But if I go to it, I'll be okay, because just today, like the day like any other day, the first is the first door. We have 4 doors. So we come through, we enter the first door. And it means if we're going to go through this ceremony improper, we're going to the door in and there's a door out. And so as we go into the door, we're fresh, and it's as a baby, an infant. And then the second door, it gets a little hotter, maybe, or we go into another place where we often sing for the men. And that becomes the adolescent period of time when the music gets a little warmer. Because each time you open the door, you add in a few more rocks. Sometimes it gets hotter, sometimes it gets colder. You never know what's going to be like. It's life itself. So then the third door comes, and that for in our ceremony is for the women who officiate, who take over. And the women is a kind of an unusual ceremony there that we were given, where the women officiate, and they're on that side of the room. So the third door is for the adult, and it's for medicine, and it's for songs, prayers from the women's side view. And then the fourth door, is the elder. And it's usually crows and button it up, give people a little few minutes to think about, did they miss anything? Did they forget something that they wanted to address to help allay the disease? And then there's the song that I sang to you was a thanks song, which is the last thing, Ananikamka, the little bird that takes our word out, our prayers. And then the prayer ends in the English part that says that, we live in this land of house of plenty where we wander. And it came from an Inupiat guy who was a real rascal. And that, through the old men and through the old women that have given us pieces, that we can use the wing and water, that's all I was ever told, not to do nothing else. But sometimes I will try to put myself in peril, because not unlike yourself, we're not good at rules when it comes to people who need something that we feel that we can somehow allay their disease. Which means that every time we put our hands on them, then we're willing to take on your disease.
Yes.
And you're the same way, I know. So, to walk through this world of plenty and drift around, then something happens. And so even though in a period of time of great disease, an area comes to us where you can talk to a whole bunch of people who are very attentive to what they're having to say, what you have to talk, and another fellow, to allay the dis-ease, to help make people more with ease. How can we not discuss, talk about beheading and burning people at the stake in this time? And reading about the Templar Knights and the period of time there, some of these guys would make Hitler look like a Sunday school teacher, as far as ways of making someone hurt and really reach out with it. So we know that that's there. Someone once said that when Creator made lots of time. So we have to go through it, but another one that's much smarter said that we'll never get rid of sin and trouble like that, but we don't longer have to participate.
Yeah.
And one thing in closing on around this circle around the corner was that at the end, make sure that everybody gets home okay. And that I lost the point of it. Anyway, you stick with the ceremony. Stick with what was given to us. And in that, oh, that was it. Maybe it was Oren Lyons, maybe someone really smart promised us that we have in our books, in our mind, in our libraries, in our book of the learned people. There's really some gloomy stuff. I know when old Walt used to talk about it, I'd get, I just squirm. I didn't want to hear about floods and fires and hell, damnation, and all the stuff that, and then you find out that there are many native prophecies, Ben Gogh and some of these people, Ben, I can't think of the man, how big surrounds anyway. But after all of the stuff that just makes me crazy, I think about my little daughter, I think my son, my children down there at the Montessori school across the street. I think, how can you talk about these terrible things? And I said, every time we talk about that, I'd say, I can't talk with it. I can't see my child floating face down in the water. I can't address a loving man, a God, that would allow such things. And then you always come into the part that says, but when you die, you're better. And then even we come up to Seattle and those guys who give us a peace. But the guys that I like, Ben Yocken, that's the old man. But the guys that I really liked, the guys that I could listen to, were the ones that would always say, there's a little crack in the door, and many will get through there. A few of them will get through there. And it makes to me that it's tolerable. And I don't feel that I'll be one of them that find the door. I don't need to. As you know, as well as I know, we've had many lives. And many more probably that we have that we don't even have really calculated it up yet, But we've been blessed and double blessed to see in the life the first bubble. And
I was going to say that I grew up with a set of ideas that were given to me to help me become what is called an educated person, with a lot of exposure to Western ideas. And it wasn't until I got out of university that I found the rest of the world and began traveling with people who grew up with very different sets of ideas. And something that has interested me in being with people in different cultures is to try to understand what they mean by story and storytelling. And so I always have these questions that really don't grow out of my own culture, they grow out of an exposure to other people's ways of thinking. And so I recall these sort of throwaway sentences that I get from one elder or another that help me understand what I'm supposed to do as a writer. And the one I'm thinking of now is this: I told a man that I was so filled with grief and sadness when I am in some part of the world where you can't miss the human suffering. It's everywhere around you, starvation and loss of family and tidal waves and things like that. And it's overwhelming to feel in these settings where so many people are, figuratively they're burning alive. What do you do with that? As you say, how can you maintain a sense of hope when you see so much of this stuff? And this man said, well, Barry, we don't tell all the stories to all the people. And what that meant to me was sometimes you will find yourself with a story and you will need to tell it, but be aware of who you're telling it to.
Mm.
And that couples to another thing, and it was like this one was Oren Lyons told me. I called him once on the phone and I said, I go to a university and I try to find a way to take everything I've been taught and turn it into, an evening with people. And I want those people to leave with an enhanced sense of their own worth and the possibility for them and for their families. And then I go back to the hotel room and I close the door and I turn the lock and I lean against the door. And in a selfish way, I say, well, what about me? How can I tell myself a story that will make me feel better than I do? And when I told this to Oren once, he said, I said, sometimes I just don't know what to say, because I myself am suffering, and I feel like I'm running from one village to another to tell the next village what's going on and help them get ready for something that's coming. So he said to me, Barry, the only thing that you can do that's not right is to take hope from people. So don't worry, don't make it too complicated in your head. Just be careful not to say things that are too much for people. And that's what that meant. We don't tell all the stories to all the people.
Mm.
So when you're with a group of people, you want to shape the story, or maybe there's a parallel. You want to make a painting that that draws enough on the really hard things that you've seen to make it authentic, but it's not. It doesn't leave the person destroyed. And I think that's one of the most impressive things that elders do. They know what to tell you, they also know what not to tell you. And they try to teach that. If you stand up and declare yourself an artist, or you declare your way in the world is art, or your way in the world is storytelling, the elders are telling you, okay, but be careful, because it's a big responsibility here. You can't just do whatever you want, You can't, which is hard for people who grew up in a Western culture where you're told that, and your individual artistic vision comes first. Well, maybe not. Maybe what comes first is the social responsibility, that if this stuff is coming through you, you have to be thinking about, is this going to take care of people, or will this cause harm? Will this cause damage? And as you said before, the little ones. Wow, can you imagine the world that you and I grew up in seems so innocent compared to the world that our kids are growing up in. I don't know how they hold up. I know that they're just not taking in the stuff. I'm just saying, I can't continue to operate as long as this stuff is coming into me that tells me there's no future for me, the world is going to burn up, global climate change, things like that. I think contemporary society suffers to some degree because collectively artists and writers have been urged to think more about themselves and not to understand that the history of storytelling and the history of art is a communal activity, and that nobody paints, nobody can paint like you, nobody can see like you do. But because you have this incredible vision, doesn't mean that you aren't aware every day of your life, every time we talk on the phone, or every time we sit and talk. We're always encouraging each other the way we are trying to listen to the world outside ourselves. Walking in here today, watching all these crows out there in the park, I felt like they were coming around to say, hey, you guys gonna have anything interesting to say? Because if you do, we have them leave the door open so we can get in. know, but I'm always thinking of, what you do is you've got to be aware of the community. You've been given a gift. And I think you're right, even the stroke is a gift. I mean, it's not my business to say that to you, because I haven't been in the pain and the confusion and the despair and the depression that you have had to go through. But you're a strong man, and you're taking this thing that was like a fist in the face, and you're just pushing the hand away and getting up on your knees and then getting up on your feet, and you've given us all this work. You're not, one of the things I love most about you is you won't quit. You won't quit on yourself, and you won't quit on your community. And we don't have enough of that in our culture. The culture that your people and my people have created together. We don't have enough of the older people that they're not gonna quit. They'll never quit. The elders will never, ever quit. And we need to tell the children, you've got to take care of these people. You've got to support them, bring them some food or something like that. At least that's what I think.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Do you see yourself opening it into anything new over the past year and a half that has surprised you as a lifelong artist? You talked about the 4 doors. And I know you live your life in a sacred way in the 4 directions and with blessings, and you're very conscious of the doors opening and beginning, everything beginning with ceremony. And I'm wondering if a 5th door, if you will, has opened up, a little crack that you described where some people were going to get through. It seems like in your own life there's been this little crack, and you're pushing your way into it. Do you think that has happened?
I probably don't think that way, because I don't think that way, but I think that it may well be true, that even finding one's voice. There was that wonderful book called Giving Speech with the Bear, or something. There was a title of a book. Giving them speech anyway, but to have finding things, and to be this age now, to be the elder, and the little ceremony that I enjoy there so much. There are very few native people, and there's non-native people who have dedicated themselves in the way that's proper to move forward in a manner without embarrassment or adding something. We're told we were given something, and it's given this way, and it doesn't need anybody else making it bigger or smaller or different. Because the one way that we're going to move down the road in a good way is if we have it just so. We don't add to it, we don't detract. We try to do it just the way the old man left it to us. And when people were talking, they needed more of this or less of that, and I said, you can do that. But what I was given, my job, was the way that it was given to me. So you can do whatever you want. It's not right, because we were told this is it. We don't need anything else.
Right.
And I tell people, we are in foreign ground. A guy found a bird. He wanted to keep the bird, and I said, it's not yours. What are you going to do with it? Are you a businessman? Are you a medicine man? Or are you some person of power or something? The only time I'd ever had to talk to somebody like that. Why do you need that bird? Well, he wanted it. Well, yeah. See, we got a bird one time, the old man and I, and the doctor man came and said, you can't have it. Said, this is the way it goes. And so we had to drive way back up in the country, way back up on this place where we put the remains of the bird to rest. And we had to re-inter, take the head, which I'd worked out. Because the old man always left me up that kind of stuff that I didn't like. So I was giving a hair blow job, getting her hair all fluffed up, maybe eyes out of Babylon, you know, really working on it. Said, no, you can't have it. The spirit came to the doctor man a couple 100 miles away, drove up to say, you can't have it. And no uncertain about it, that we want it reinterred with the body.
The head.
Yeah. And he was counting on having that. I think it'll be okay to tell the story that he wasn't happy, the old man. He was also he's also protective of me, and he also wanted
The old man.
He wanted the old man to have that head, and I said, "We can't have it. Are you nuts? We can't have it. We got to put that back, and we can't. The deal is, you can't do it when you feel like it. It's when the spirit moves.
No.
This goes."
Yeah.
Well, and boy, he was really hot. But I said, we cannot go to knowledge and turn our back on it just when we want to.
Right.
And it didn't feel good to us, because I said, that's, you know. So we gathered up the cedar, the things that we needed to do, and we had a very long ride back up through the brush, back up on top of the hill, because he didn't say a damn thing. He was angry. But then before he passed, you know, he said, we didn't always see eye to eye, but it didn't seem to it didn't bother our friendship. And that was kind of where it rested at the end. And all the chance to take out, and came back for me to do that, is it. And sometimes it seems crazy, and other times it seems absolutely appropriate. But, you know, as they always say, if you don't do something at all, that's wrong. So you have to do it, and somebody will tell you if you're wrong, and then you'll figure out how to do things right. So we can't stop. So as far as that crack opened, then now I'm an elder. Now I have a sweetheart that will laugh with me when I'm really screwing things up trying to talk, when I can't say. There are times when I can't get a sentence, anything. They're going to come out backwards. And we just laugh about it, and we'll make, you know, she'll make jokes at it. Or if it's something of gravity, then she'll help me figure out what it is, you know. Maybe we'll get out the computer and go tick, 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 I know what it is, because I don't know.
Yeah.
And that hasn't happened much, but I have been blessed in finding some company who will understand the situation and doesn't only wishes the best for me. And that's, you know, but when I pray with the coyote that time, you know, I hope you find a place dry and warm to sleep, that you'll have food and water, and you might have company. That's probably as good a place to quit as there is for me. You can soldier on.
I just want to say one more thing, and that's thank you. Because I had a hard time as a child getting adults to understand my intuition that there's way more going on with wild animals than my culture is comfortable with. And I've been very careful in my adult years to
not say anything. But because I don't want to do a disservice to all of the animals by making them look less than they are in the eyes of people who can't see anything. So part of our friendship all of these years has been that I could pick the phone up, or I could come over and tell you something that had happened with animals in the woods around my place, or in the river, salmon people in the river. And you were enthusiastic about exploring it. And I remember for a period of 4 or 5 years, I would call you about something that had happened with pileated woodpecker maybe. And you would say, hey, just a few days ago, I did a pileated woodpecker. And it made me smile all the time. It was like two guys who were trying to be in the world in a proper way, and maybe the same bird took on the burden of our ignorance, our mutual ignorance, and was trying to get us to talk to each other, So I'm indebted to you for giving me a place to come with those ideas. I can never get over this feeling that we've done so much harm where all these animals are concerned, and they're down to just a few of them now, and they're asking for our help. And when I see them come up in their very powerful way in your work, or I see in ceremony with some people somewhere here or in Australia or other places, it makes me feel better that we're not, maybe it's a silly thing to say, but I believe you won't quit on the animals and trying to work them higher so they're seen as we're in the same thing, in the same basin of water together. And I won't either. And sometimes when people on the outside of art and literature talk about what the artist does, they talk about it's lonely, all that kind of talk. Yeah, it is. You're tearing your guts out of yourself to make something happen on the page or make something happen on the canvas. But you're part of a community in the same moment. And I think in some of the worst moments, you realize that it's only because somebody loves you that you're able to work. That's moving through you in the same way that the spirits bring the story, or they bring the paint, or they bring the images through us. We're just carriers. It's given to us, like you say, like this. It looks like that, which isn't exactly like this.
Yeah.
But it's moving through us, and I'm saying too much here, but thank you for being there when I needed you to verify that I hadn't lost my mind.
Yeah.